So the elite men and the first wave of the masses are off here at the 2016 TCS New York City Marathon. Staten Island, the place of the start. Almost 200 baggage vehicles will take over. Just getting on to the back of that lead women's pack.
Yes, you mentioned Deborah there about her residency in New York City. She's actually the New York female marathon record holder, strictly an unofficial record, of course, but there's never been a faster female New York City resident at the marathon. Ritzenhein striding out.
Well, it's interesting, he wasn't afraid to do this in the Great North Run. A few weeks back, he went straight to the front there and he tested out Mo Farah for pretty much an hour. And it wasn't until they got onto the final seafront that Mo Farah was able to put that track speed to good use. But Ritzenheinen himself, no slouch on the track. He's a sub-13-minute 5K runner, and his longevity has been very impressive. The 33-year-old still mixing it, and he would love to go inside his personal best of 2:7:47. As the women just jostling for position. As you can see, they're spread across the road. Again, that could be a sign of slightly breezy conditions at the race tape. You can see in the background, just moving from side to side. There's Molly Huddle in the middle of that group, looking very comfortable, looking at her watch, just smiling.
Yes, having passed through 11 kilometres now, so Deborah out in front. Ketani still looking very strong there on the left-hand side of the screen, in a share of third place. Mergia, the Ethiopian, over on the right, and you can just see Molly Huddle there in about 7th place at the back of this leading group. So at the moment, the double American track champion is looking very good indeed. And we talk about her track pass, but she's done very well at the half marathon, hasn't she? She's won here in New York, did that earlier this year in the New York City half marathon in a fast time. So it has been a gradual step up here to the marathon, but eventually, rather like jumping into the deep end in the swimming pool, she's got to do it, and she's doing it here in New York City. And Huddle at the moment looking pretty relaxed, although in all fairness, after 11 kilometres, if she does have any serious aspirations to win this race, you would expect her to look comfortable at the moment, because one thing we know about her is that at this level she's got plenty of speed in her legs.
Yeah, the athlete that ran an American record for 5,000 metres this year, and that 10,000 metre time getting on towards 30 minutes is pretty phenomenal running as well. So she should be fairly comfortable in the early stages, and a lot of it's about conserving energy and making sure that she stays switched on for the drink stations and is aware of the athletes around her. But she just wants to be ticking off these early miles and just being nice and conservative, not making too many additional surges in pace, because that sometimes happens when there's multiple leaders. Sometimes happens when there is undulations on the course. People tend to accelerate in and out of corners, but for Molly Huddle, she just wants to be as controlled as relaxable through these early miles.
Yes, you can see the ticker across the top there, keeping a record on the women behind these leaders. A group here now of 9, with an advantage of something like 15 or 20 metres on the next to the athlete. The tall athlete there in the middle of the field, with that slightly off-pink vest, almost salmon pink vest. That is the Burundian, Diane Nakuri. So Abdi Rahman now out in front in this men's race. The men who've been going now for something like 20 minutes. I went through 5 kilometres of Gebre Selassie, the youngster, the man who was a teenager, won the world title. He's still just 20. He went through 5K in 15:17. Ritzenhein, you can see there in 2nd place. Also there is Lucas Rotic. Abdi Rahman, who's now made his way to the front. Stanley Biwott is there, Lelisa de Sissa. Moses Kipsiru also in this leading group. But it's still a very large gathering towards the front of this field in the men's race. Ritzenhein on the right, Abdirahman there on the left.
So it's inside 5 minute mile in this early pace, which can often be a little bit slower on the New York course. So they've gone out at a healthy pace, and that was probably largely down to Ritzenhein going straight to the front and kind of just getting things kicked off, unlike the women's where the favourites kind of let 3 runners go. Seeing Nathan right there, it was a case of going with him, and that field has, and that 15-20 early split indicates that they're inside 2:10 pace at the moment. Still a lot of runners there, and you see a big gap back to the second pack. So a lot of runners choosing to go in this lead pack. As you can see, they've gone through 4 miles and 19:50, so they've maintained that sub 5 minute pace.
Yes, Matt Yorno, one of the lesser known Americans there, wearing the glasses just behind Ritzenhein. So Abdirahman, Ritzenhein, Yorno. The Americans certainly very prominent in the early stages of this men's race, but also there in this leading group as we go across the front of that field. De Sissa still showing prominently in this men's race. Also there is Yamamoto, the Japanese athlete. The first 2 from last year's women's race in the leading 3 at the moment, with Mary Keitany and Nasalafek Mergia. That is Chep Karui, you can see, in second place at the moment. A little bit of a gap back to Molly Huddle. The American's still going well, although she doesn't want to get caught in no woman's land. Would like to latch herself onto the back of this leading trio, but Keitany looking strong. There you can see Chep Karui in second place, Mergia in 3, and Huddle working quite hard at the moment to try and bridge that gap.
Well, Mergia, who was second here last year, so she's watching very carefully what Mary Keitany's doing, and you're really right, Martin. There is a gap back to Molly Huddle. It came from the drink station.
Yeah, that's Kim Conley.
So you can see Molly Huddle's still got her drink, so taking her time, so not rushing the hydration, and that's the most important thing, is not really rushing any kind of attacks or surges like this. It could well just be the fact that she's picked a bottle up, taken more of the time with it, and now she'd put her head down and slowly get her way back to this leading trio.
There certainly has been quite a surge at the front, I think, hasn't there?
The next split, I think, will be the 7 mile split on the tracker that people were following various runners on, from the elite to the masses out there on the course. As you can see, Rotich in the centre of the screen, with a multicoloured variety of shoes on show there. A loud noise from the crowd. Kipsiro, the Ugandan, on the left. He had a fantastic track pedigree and stepped up to the marathon in Frankfurt. Only 2:15, that surprised a number of people in the know. Expected him to go a little bit faster, so he'll be looking to improve on that. And that is the thing now in marathons around the world. This is one of the marathon majors, but there are so many top quality marathons on show. There's a lot to choose from and a lot of planning for athletes, agents and coaches.
That is in second place, Joyce Chep Karui. Chep Karui, winner of the Amsterdam Marathon a little over a year ago, when she knocked a huge amount of time off her lifetime best. She ran 2:24.11. Now, being able to run that sort of time certainly makes you a contender here, but that was certainly a big step up for her, and I think her performance here is another significant improvement, but bear in mind she has yet to reach halfway. Huddle running alone, as she has done now for quite a significant period of time, and it can't be that good for her running at this sort of tempo, but she doesn't really have too much choice over the matter at the moment. But she's still looking reasonably relaxed, or as relaxed as you can be.
Yeah, she's maintaining her pace. She's running around about sort of 5:20 a mile, so that's why she's kind of lost about 10 seconds per mile over the last couple of miles. But she'll just be taking her time. I would have thought that the halfway point will be a welcome sign, and especially if she starts to see Mergia coming back to her, because there's definitely now a gap between our two leaders out there, Katani, Kipkurui. And so she does start to close down on third. And interesting, you can just see a little bit of tape down on the on her left leg. So that one in the last 4 to 5 miles. So if we compare that to the halfway split when the record was set, it was 72.07 for Margaret Onkero in 2003. So at the moment they're getting towards course record pace, Martin.
Yes, and also we did get a significant graphic, a rare graphic there, showing us the gap between Ketani and the American Molly Huddle, and it's now almost a minute. 56, 57 seconds, something like that. Margaret Onkero, yes, the course record holder here.
With a very strong elite men's pack on the field. Dathan Rittenheim on the right of the screen with the USA jersey. He's led them through the 10 miles, split in 49.09, so operating around about the 2.9 mark. So outside course record pace, Jeffy Mutai, who went through 15 kilometres in 45.13 when he broke the record, and they went through 15 kilometres in 45.51, and that represents a slight increase in pace, and that 5 kilometre split 15 minutes and 14 seconds, so maintaining the pace at the moment. And right in the centre, we were looking out to see if he was settled in that lead group. The defending champion Stanley Biwott is still there, Martin.
Yes, although apparently there was no particular event which appears to have happened, but he at one point was 30 or 40 metres off the pack. He's now got himself onto the back of it, but most of the reports we're getting down from the road suggest that he's not looking particularly comfortable, but it remains to be seen. But Biwott is now at least closest pursuer, a good 60 or 70 metres behind her. Stanley Biwott ran very, very fast earlier this year when he finished second in London. He ran, what, 2:3:51. I mean, world-class performance. But since then, he's dropped out twice, Olympic marathon and now this. I mean, does that spell the end for a marathon runner at this level?
I think someone like Stanley, he's only 30 years of age, so he's got time on his hands. He's not done in terms of marathon running, but he has been very consistent in the major city marathons, and you know, having watched him a lot over the last few years, when he does run, he's always given 100%. A couple of times the wheels came off in London. He didn't quite run as fast as he wanted to. This year he did run phenomenally well, ran inside 2 hours and 4. And then went to the Olympics, and there was talk, obviously, the issues with the water bottles and his feed stations. But whether it's something different to that's caused this today, but he'll be deeply disappointed. But I expect to see Stanley Biwott back.
Well, Mary Katani, they're looking for 3 straight victories. There you can see Greta Weitz, who completed... Well, she actually dominated the race, didn't she, towards the end of the 70s and throughout the 80s. And Mary Katani here looking to do this in an entirely different era.
And that's Lucas Rotich, and he's looking very good at the front there. So they've gone through 20 kilometres at the moment in the men's race, and it's starting to break up slightly. They have just gone through a drink stop, or drink station, I should say, for some. They don't want to be stopping, obviously. And just taking a look round, just sizing up each other. So 20 kilometres, they've just gone through in 61.08. So looking at that in comparison to the other splits, and again, very, very consistent. So that makes it 15.17, Martin, for that last 5 kilometres. So they've gone 15.19, 15.18, 15.14, and 15.17. You can set your watch by these guys.
Yes, and Rotich, he's certainly got the pedigree here to go on and win this race. For starters, he does a lot of his training with Eliud Kipchoge, who is the preeminent marathon runner of the current day, having won the Olympic title and, of course, running so fast in London earlier this year. Well, Rotich has won on the road in New York, indeed in Central Park. He won a 10k there back in May. He's won a marathon this year at Lake Biwa in Japan, and he has got a fast time over the marathon distance, 2:07.18, and we're probably looking here at a winning time in the sort of 2.5s, 2.6s, and he's just one of that leading group of, what is it, 9 now. But Rotich, just another name that you can chuck into the mix. Gebrselassie, you can see there in the middle. It's Ritzenhein, the American, who's done an awful lot of work so far, over on the right. And I guess of the big names, perhaps it's just Stanley Biwa, the defending champion, who isn't there. And if you are just joining our coverage here on Eurosport, well, he pulled out, did Biwa, for the second straight marathon. He did it in Rio at the Olympic Games. He's done it here in New York. And he has pulled off onto the side of the road after just 15 kilometres. But this is the leading group in the men's race. And they've now been going just a touch over 1 hour, 1:03.29.30. You can see the clock there in the top left-hand corner as they make their way towards the halfway mark.
Yeah, Rotich looking very controlled. Slight incline there. Always tests out a few of the runners. Kipsero on the right of the screen. So that slightly rocking and rolling arm action as they just drive up, and it is Gebrselassie. So the 20-year-old Eritrean, so world champion from last year. 4th in Rio, 4th in the London Marathon. So he'll be desperate to get on the podium today. And Lelisa de Caesar just behind him. So he's one of the most consistent marathon runners out at the moment. Twice the Boston Marathon champion. And there is the halfway mark. And they've gone through inside 64.5 minutes. So at the moment operating just on the high end of 2:08 marathon pace. So if you compare that to the course record of Jeffrey Mutai, he went through the halfway in 63.18. So unless they have a big negative split, which means the second half would be a lot faster than the first, I think that course record is safe for today. But there's still a lot of numbers there. So you can well see a quick second half as the racing really begins.
Yeah, we're probably looking at a winning time somewhere around about 2:08, aren't we? Gebrselassie, you can see kicking on. Another name we haven't mentioned too much recently is Yamamoto, the Japanese. You can see him back in that second group now, the second pairing, back in 5th place. He's running just his second marathon here, came 3rd in his first, and that was back at home in the Far East at Beppu when he ran 2:11. But young Gebrselassie, just 20, world champion, kicking on, making it a very honest clip, to say the least, out in front. And it's Gebrselassie alongside de Caesar, the Ethiopian, and Lucas Rotich.
The fact it's breaking up is probably to do with the fact that the pace has dropped from around about the 4:50 mark to around about 4.5 minutes. So that's a substantial increase in pace. And as you can see, the gap has opened up very quickly. And as the race hottens up, the arm warmers come off some of these lead runners. They get chucked off. And that looks like the race has started, Martin.
Well, it is, isn't it? Not so much rolling up your sleeves as rolling them down and getting rid of them. Meanwhile, Keitany, 27 kilometres, 1:35. She's going to be on her feet, you would have thought, but, well, certainly well over 40 more minutes to come. 45 minutes, something like that, maybe a little bit more. Yes, that course record set, 13 years ago now by Margaret Akeo. And Keitany looking to become yet another 3-time winner of this race, joining the great Greaterbites and Paula Radcliffe, who's in New York to watch this race. And there you can see from that graphic at the bottom of the screen that now Keitany has opened up a lead of 53 seconds. Huddle there, almost 2.5 minutes in arrears. So through 18 kilometres, or 18 miles I should say, 26 miles, 385 yards, That is the full marathon distance. And Kettani with that familiar high arm carriage. As things stand, looking very strong indeed on quite a chilly, but a parky autumnal day. Barely a cloud in the sky, not much wind. Rotic there at the front of the field on the right hand side with TCS back in third place. And Rotic he's got a very good pedigree, hasn't he? He's run sub 13 minutes for 5,000 metres, and if we go back to the 80s, well, the first man to ever break 13 minutes for that distance, Saida Wita, wasn't it? Going all the years back now to what was about 1987, I think. And Rotic is a sub 13-minute 5,000 metre man. He's broken 27 minutes for 10,000 metres, and that is incredibly fast. So Rotic, you would have thought he's looking a little bit uncomfortable there. That was just a slightly pained expression on his face. Rotic there in the middle of those three. But the man who, well, trying to step out of the shadow of many better-known men here, but Rotic, a winner of the Hamburg Marathon last year when he ran his lifetime best of 2:7:17, will never have a better opportunity than this. Gebre Selassie in second place, the 20-year-old TCS, who's got a tremendous record over the big city marathons, particularly in this part of the world, lying there in third place. But you would have to think that the winner will come from this triumvirate.
Yeah, at the moment you'd have to think that. And you are right, Rotic just seems to keep grimacing, but I mean, trying to watch him, that does seem to be his style of running. So I won't read too much into that at the moment. So their splits, as I said, have increased. And it's going to be really interesting to see if the chasers behind can do anything about it, and whether these three, or how long these three might stay together. So all three of them took advantage of the last drink station. So you have to say, the youngster at the front, the world champion, having a look at his watch, Gebre Selassie, and just checking his own splits or checking his own feel, and that gold chain going from side to side. Can she keep this pace going for the last 6 miles and not just only write her name into the history books, becoming a third-time winner, joining Paula Radcliffe and Greta Reitz, but to take the course record as well would be a very special achievement. And there's our leading men's trio on the screen: Rotic, Gebre Selassie and TCS. And at the moment, all three of them not looking in too much distress, just having a look at each other. And it is the 20-year-old at the front, the Eritrean, Gebre Selassie. He's a 2.7 best this year in London. Being the world champion, I'm sure he would have wanted to have gone to Rio and come back with a medal. But that really is the quality of men's elite distance running at the moment. Eliud Kipchoge taking that gold medal. But the American, Galen Rupp, getting into the bronze medal position ahead of this man. And Hannes bounced back quickly. Good recovery, obviously good planning. And here he is leading through the TCS New York City Marathon through the 27-kilometre mark.
And what a stunning atmosphere it is here. The wide avenues. The grid system of Manhattan. The avenues running the length of Manhattan. The streets running across. Tremendous crowds, 5 or 6 deep.
So still a lot of racing here to come, as we get some good live feed from the lead vehicles. And there is nothing to choose between these three. As we see the chasers behind, Yamamoto in 6th, Dathan Rittenheim in 7th, Shadrik Biwott in 8th. And then a trio of Americans make up that top 10. And in good conditions today, and with a brisk first half, there could well be some good times for many of those runners in the chasing group. But as the shot pans back, you can see the fourth place runner is not in sight. When she does get right down to the last few miles, whether she does think about picking the pace up or whether it's a case of just enjoying it and taking that that third victory.
Stunning tempo the men are running at. Run about 4:48, 4:49 a mile at the moment. And there is the gap. So suddenly 3 becomes 2, and it's TCS, the man who's won this or won races in this part of the world twice before, who's dropped. And now just the sense that Gebrselassie are taking full advantage and opening up a gap on Rotic as well. So Gebrselassie, the youngster, the world champion, and Rotic, well, the expression pained, although we do have to make the point that it's not the first time we've seen a look like that. But the indicators are here that Gebrselassie is looking strong, he's feeling strong, and look at TCS now, he's almost standing up, isn't he, on that slight climb. And really, things have fallen apart for the Ethiopian, and Gebrselassie, he's got his head down, he's working hard, and he's now making his bid for victory.
Well, TCS, it looked as if within about 2 strides, he went from being pretty comfortable to looking around to then almost stopped up that hill. So he's got a long way to go if he's in trouble. So over 10 kilometres of running still to go. And again, look how relaxed and cool and calm this guy is for 20 years of age. And this is fantastic running and answers the big question of Rotic as well. And Rotic is the only one that tried to respond, but that gap is really, really increasing by every single stride.
And every time he runs past someone, even if it's perhaps somebody who's struggling just a little bit in the women's race, he'll get a little lift as he goes past on this part of the course, which you can see there is quite a rise. And he just takes a look over his shoulder there, and the confidence just grows. He puts his head down, he picks up the cadence even more, and this is an athlete who's feeling very, very at ease with himself.
He's a great mover. Look how compact he is. And we know he ran the Olympic marathon, but it could well be the fact that he's looks like he's well built in relation to marathon running, and that recovery, obviously it pays to be 20 years of age and recover that way. And at the moment, that leg pace on that downhill section, and TCS isn't even in shot there, is he? He's dropped a massive amount, and I'd be really surprised if we see him finishing now.
And I know it's becoming more and more of a feature with marathon running, but this man is running his 3rd major marathon of 2016. Back down the road, and Gebrselassie, well, he looks like he's just sort of slipped his shoes on, stepped out of the kitchen door and started running. Doesn't look like a man who's been running at 4:45, 4:50 schedule for, what, an hour and 40 minutes or something. It's a stunning performance at the moment from this fella.
Yeah, he's looking absolutely phenomenal out there. And that power through those quads of his, you can just see that, how compact he is as well. And one thing has been really visible is how concentrated he's been for the whole time, which for 20 years of age is, you know, that's a phenomenal thing to have under your armour, is to be that focused and that controlled, because that's what the marathon's about. You can't let emotions get to you too much in the marathon, and that's one thing that he hasn't. And obviously he would have been disappointed from the Olympics, and you can almost see that focus in his eyes here, determined, having finished 4th in London, 4th in Rio, that he was not coming to New York and coming 4th. To keep moving, and she will just want to see that final stretch coming into sight, and she can really enjoy it. She's going to be part of history now. As you can see on the right, the women's leader, and on the left, our men's leader. And both of them are giving us a fantastic display, Martin, of distance running.
Yes, they're also seeing New York at its absolute best, aren't they? The autumn colours, stunning in Central Park. It has been a very good day. It's a race which meteorologically speaking, has had its troubles in recent years. The 2012 race quite literally blown into extinction. But today, pretty cool at the start, below 10 degrees centigrade. So, Mary Keitany,
what?
slowing just a little, but well on her way to taking the New York Marathon. Lucas Rotich, 2:7:17 his lifetime best. He's not going to improve that here, but what he will do is produce a major city marathon to sit alongside his Hamburg Marathon victory from last year, and the sort of performance we've seen here from Lucas Rotich is going to make him a very attractive signing for other major city marathons over the course of the next 12 months. So, both in terms of his reputation and commercial value, this is a performance that will enhance him greatly.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to see whether he goes back to defend his world title in London, and whether that's something that is attractive to him. It'd be great to see him on the streets of London in the World Championships. He's obviously been there as part of the London Marathon, and again, could well see him back there in April, looking to run maybe a super fast time. So there's no reason why you can't see him being one of the ones to challenge for that world record.
Yes, I guess the only concern about this fella's career is he's won a world title at 19. He's run 3 very demanding marathons this year. I mean, let's not forget the Olympic marathon in Rio. Came 4th there. It only seems like a matter of weeks ago. Ran very fast in London back in April. There comes a point, and I know marathon running has moved on, and in terms of the preparation of athletes, it's not like the old days when many world-class marathon runners said, right, it's one hard marathon every year. They can now run 2, and as we can see, 3. But at the age of 20, he wants to leave something in the legs, doesn't he? So, Mary Keitany will win her 3rd New York Marathon, just outside 2:24. It has been an outstanding performance. She has put plenty of clear blue water between herself and the rest of the field. Keitany, the Queen of New York, not once, not twice, but now 3 times.
And that hurt at the end. You can tell that incline on West Drive, every single stride was hurting. And there's a family, and they travel with her to the races, and they're a great little family unit, and they'll be absolutely delighted. And
there
so
actually is the widower of Greater Vites, just behind the boards as well.
Is going to finish just outside 2:28. So having run here last year, not finished, to come back in 2016, dust herself off. And she's going to hold off Molly Huddle, who's going to finish in 3rd place. That's a pretty solid debut, that, Martin, on the New York course. 2:28 for Molly Huddle.
Yes, it'll be interesting to see what her next move is, whether she will continue on the road with a campaign for another big city marathon, perhaps in the springtime. But Molly Huddle there coming through in 3rd place, and in the end, perhaps not quite the fairy tale that many American followers would have liked, but still a very competent performance. Celebrate. Guilherme Ghebreselassie still looking very, very strong, and he's now inside the last mile and just a little bit more of this men's marathon. And when you consider his 3rd big marathon of the year, 4th in London, 4th at the Olympic Games in Rio, and now I think he got some news in terms of his time, because in terms of his own personal records, he may well rewrite those as well.
Yeah, he's going to be super close to his own personal best, set in London, 2:07:46. He's gone through 25 miles in 2:01:38. So he's got just under a mile now, but his pace is slightly dropping, and it does look like he's got no challenges from behind. So very, very similar to Mary Keitany. But if he continues at this pace, he should be inside 2:08 and yeah, would be a new personal best to boot with becoming the 2016 New York City Marathon champion.
His last marathon, his last mile, I should say. I'll get it out eventually.
And as he turns his attention to that finishing pavilion, he'll be getting great support from the crowd. There's Lukas Rotic. It's been a hard, business-like last few miles for him. He stuck to his guns well, though, because it would have been easy, wouldn't it, once that pace picked up and when he really did start to struggle. And that's been the best part of 5-6 miles, that he's tough through that, and he's going to be rewarded, unless I don't think the chasers behind will get anywhere near Rotic for second, and they're definitely not going to get anywhere near this guy. Phenomenal second half here in New York today.
Well, it's going to be very, very close indeed to his lifetime best. This is that last climb, the last painful climb, leaning forward, trying to pick up the cadence. Moment for celebration. Gadamay Gebrselassie of Eritrea is going to take the New York Marathon title. 2:07:43:44. It's going to be just outside his lifetime best. But at the age of 20, well, I think it's fair to say, plenty of time in the future to put that right. Gebrselassie is the New York champion. He becomes just a second runner to win both the world title and the New York City Marathon after Douglas Wakihuri. He became world champion in '87, won the New York title 3 years later. Well, it's taken this fella just a little more than 12 months to do the same.
And he's the 5th fastest of all time on this course. The winner and the runner-up, Lukas Rotic, second place at the 2016 New York City Marathon.
So there is the winner. Rotic comes through in second place. So the first two men through the line. And I think we're going to celebrate another American and another third place. Abdi Abdirahman should be the next man through. Still waiting for confirmation of that winning time, but it will be just outside his lifetime best. Somewhere just inside 2:08.
He's going to be just outside 2:11.
So here he is, Abdi Abdirahman. Becomes a leading American. And he gets his own finish funnel as a result of that. So, the first American.
I think you can safely say he's happy with that.
Yes, one of the senior citizens of American road running. Americans finishing third in both the men's and women's races. Your thoughts?
Well, it's been a phenomenal day so far. It's still just started for a lot of the runners out there on the course. Marcel Hoog was phenomenal, and so was Tanya McFadden. But those two